Hi, welcome to this Blender video tutorial entitled NURBSSurfaceCirclePart2 Dupliframes and ScrewModifier. Because the NURBS surface circle object has no geometry panel, bevel, or taper controls, it cannot, like a Bezier circle or a NURBS circle, be lofted along a path. The closest thing to lofting available to a NURBS surface circle is to use Blender's Dupliframes functionality. To demonstrate Dupliframes and how they might be used in a Blender NURBS surface circle object, I'll add to my scene a NURBS circle. Note this is a NURBS circle and not a NURBS surface circle. I'll then scale it up a bit. I'll name this object NURBS Path. I'll then tab into Edit mode and select the top control vertice and move it up a bit. I'll then scale these lower control vertices in a bit. And I'll scale these upper control vertices out a bit. I'll then tab out of Edit mode. I'll then add a NURBS surface circle object to my scene. And I'll scale it down a bit. Then with the NURBS surface circle object selected and holding down my Shift key, I'll add the NURBS path object to the selection. I'll then click Ctrl P to make the NURBS path object a parent of the NURBS surface circle object. However, I will select Set Parent to Follow Path. In order for the NURBS surface circle to follow the path of the NURBS path object, I have to first select it and press Alt-O, which will reset the object's origin. The NURBS surface circle is now set to follow the NURBS path. I will rotate the NURBS surface circle 90 degrees around the x-axis so that it is in line with the NURBS path. In the animation timeline, I'll set the end frame to 100. I'll then play the animation. Note that the NURBS surface circle object now follows around the NURBS path object over the 100 frame animation. I'll stop the animation and go to frame number 1. Then with the NURBS surface circle object selected, I'll click on the Object icon in the right Properties panel. I'll scroll down to the Duplication panel. Currently, the duplication is set to the default None. I'll select Frames. This displays a number of other controllers. I will uncheck the Speed checkbox. Notice that there is now an indication of 100 duplicate NURBS surface circles spread about the NURBS path object, one for each frame. The on-off controllers determine the frequency of the duplicated objects. Here I will change the off to 4. Now there is a duplicate for every fifth frame, 20 in all. To confirm the creation of the duplicated object, I will press Shift-Control-A. This creates all the duplicate objects. You can see them listed in the Outliner panel. I'll switch to Side View, Numpad 3, and deselect everything, A key. I'll then box select all of the duplicated NURBS surface circle objects. I'll then press Ctrl J and join them into one object. I'll then tab into Edit mode and select all of the control vertices. With the control vertices selected, I'll press the F key and skin the surface. I'll select one of the control vertices and go to the Object Data Properties panel. In the Active Spline panel, I will checkmark the U cyclic, which will close the object's curves. Then tab out of Edit mode and click on the Origin button and set it to the geometry. I'll select the original NURBS path object and delete it. I'll tab into Edit mode and select the original NURBS surface circle and delete it. And then tab out of Edit mode. Using Dupliframes is a good method for pseudo-lofting a NURBS surface object. All NURBS surface objects have access to a number of Blender's modifier tools. For instance, this chain link type object that I've just created is a good candidate for Blender's array modifier. One quite useful modifier to use with the NURBS surface circle object is the ScrewModifier. To demonstrate this, I'll delete this object and go to Top Orthographic View. Here I will add a NURBS surface circle object. I'll then add an empty object and move it to the side. I'll select the NURBS surface circle object and rotate it 90 degrees around its x-axis. I'll then add a ScrewModifier to the NURBS surface circle object. In the Axis Object box, I'll select the empty object. This creates a torus-shaped object. I can control the size of the torus by adjusting the position of the empty object. I'll go to Front View, Numpad 1, and then select the NURBS surface circle object. In the ScrewModifier panel, I'll checkmark Object Screw. Then I will select the empty object and move it up a bit along the z-axis. I'll then select the NURBS surface circle object, and in the modifier panel, I'll set the iterations to 5. This creates a nice spring-like object. I can control the compression of the spring by raising or lowering the empty object along the z-axis. I can control the width of the spring by moving the empty object along the x-axis. Note, this is one way to make a rope. To smooth this out a bit, I'll select the NURBS surface circle and set the steps and render steps to 32. I will also check Calc Order to remove some of the shading artifacts. We still have access to the original NURBS surface circle. I'll select it and tab into Edit mode. For instance, here I can select the top center control vertice and move it down a bit, making a carved out spiral. Or I can select all of the control vertices and subdivide them, making a square steel spring type object. I can also select some of these control vertices and fashion a carved out effect. Perhaps even scale out the sides a bit.